Tell me about how you got into Stanford and leaving Carmel.
Well, as I say, I had the help of Dorothy and Clayton Neal to get me into Stanford financially, and I applied for a job working as a hasher, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner in my dorm, which was Branner Hall. And my mother went to work, as I said earlier, to help support me, and I worked summer vacations at the Village Hardware. So anyway, Stanford was a very nice experience for me. I did not excel in my scholastic achievements, which I had done at junior college and high school, but it was a very good growing up and learning experience. In my senior year, corporations and businesses came to the campus to interview for people who might be interested in working for them. And I remember going to this one interview where the Emporium Capwell Company came looking for people interested in becoming buyers. And they had a buyer training program, which sounded very interesting to me. And it was San Francisco. And I thought, well, that sounds really fun. So I moved to San Francisco, got an apartment, a room in the YWCA boarding house. Now that sounds a bit dreary, but in actuality, it was glorious. It was this old, beautiful building on Powell Street below the Fairmont Hotel that a family had given to the YWCA to be turned into a boarding house for young working women in San Francisco. And the views were glorious. They were the views of the bay and the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge from every room. And the living room was decorated as the family left it with lovely furnishings and a beautiful dining room, a staff to cook breakfast and dinners, and I had a beautiful room that had this incredible view. I was so happy. So I would walk from there to Market Street where the Emporium Capwell building was, started my job as a buyer training, which I enjoyed very, very much, and I thought, well, this is going to be a very nice career. I'll become a buyer for the Emporium Capwell Company. Well, the buyer training class came to a conclusion, and there was what you would call maybe a little graduation party at one of the fellows' apartments. And so I showed up that night. As I remember, it was a very hot night. And I walked in, I said, boy, I need a gin and tonic. And the host said, well, I'd like to get you one, Barbara, but the fellow bringing the ice isn't here yet. Oh, then the door burst open, and this fellow came in, collapsed, legs askew on this chair, and I walked up to him and I said, are you the fellow who's supposed to bring me the ice? And he said, lady, don't give me a bad time. I had the basement duty tonight, and I'm exhausted. Well, all the buyer trainees had to close out the basement as their sort of graduation test. And the basement of the Emporium Capwell Company was vast. I mean, it was the width and the depth of the whole building, and there were thousands of these stations, cash registers, and so you had to find every one of them, ring them all out, and before you could leave, before you could check out. I remember having that duty, and I couldn't find the last damn register, and the lights went out, because after a certain time, all the lights went out in the building, and I'm there absolutely. There's no exit sign, all illuminated, exit over here, nothing. And I couldn't see anyway, I'd be banging into everything. So I started to cry, just horribly cry. And then I saw a torch coming in, waving like this. I said, hello, have you come to save me? I'm over here. It was the night watchman just checking on everything. So he helped me find the last register. So when this fellow said to me, lady, don't give me a bad time, I had the basement duty, I developed this great attachment towards him. And that's the night I met my husband, Barry Livingston. The Emporium Capwell Company had a very nice tradition. They would train the children of department store owners and give them the training, and then they would go back to their own family businesses and become buyers or managers, etc. So he was there just for the training. We started dating, and I didn't know that anything about Livingston Brothers or him. I didn't understand. We were just dating, having a good time. And then it did get more serious, and he asked me to marry him. Well, one day I was called into the office of the CEO. Nobody ever got called up there because other people took care of, problems. So, Barbara, Mr. Blah, blah, blah wants to see you. We went up there. Yes? He said, please sit down. He said, Barbara, he said, I just heard from your future father-in-law that you're going to marry Barry Livingston, the scion of the Livingston brothers owner. And he said, we just can't have you working here. That would be contradictory to good practice, good business practice. So we're going to have to let you go. But I had such hopes for you. I'm so sorry. So that ended my buying career, which had not really started yet. So I got married, and we lived in San Francisco, and I had 2 children. We moved down to Menlo Park, so I thought the children would have a happier outdoor life. Not that you couldn't live happily in San Francisco, I'm sure, but anyway, that's that story.
And then what did you do when you got to Menlo Park?
Okay, so in Menlo Park, after the children were of a certain age, I joined the Peninsula Volunteers. It's a wonderful organization dedicated to helping senior citizens. And it was the first gerontological organization in the United States. It was a precursor to Carmel Foundation, and it did low-cost housing. It did meals for people. It offered crafts and discussion groups and classes. So I became president of that and a board member, and also helped put on the big events that raised the money for this huge organization. And I remember, sadly, our finest hour, sadly, was the farewell to the Fox Theater in San Francisco, on Market Street. Again, historic preservation had not kicked in, and nobody could save that Fox Theater from demolition. So we asked if we could have the last event before the wrecking ball would come in the next morning. So we put on this wonderful stage show, pardon me, and had a parade of old automobiles down Market Street, and the promotion was terrific. I remember handling all the publicity for that, and it was just a vast job. So that we sold out the whole theater, and then had supper and dancing at the St. Francis Hotel following the show. That was a really, really marvelous event. It raised a lot of money for the Peninsula Volunteers.
Okay. What other...
And then I also joined the Palo Alto Junior League. It started in San Francisco, and then they broke it off and made a subsidiary in Palo Alto. So I became a member of that, a board member. And so I was very, very active in those 2 organizations. Also, I was president of the Guide Dogs for the Blind Peninsula chapter, and for a time. And then one day, a neighbor said, "Let's go take an adult education class on interior design." And I said, "Sounds fun." So we did that, and the teacher was a woman named Miriam Petrovo, a very forbidding, very stern, very authoritarian character. And at the end of the class, she said, "Now, I'm looking for an assistant. Anybody here in this class interested, please let me know." And my friend said, "That's you, Barbara." So I went up to her and I said, "I'd like to talk to you about it." So I did go to work for her for 2 years. Learned a lot, and one day I was working for a client, and she said, "Barbara, Miriam hasn't been involved in any of this. You've been shopping for me, you've been designing, you've been taking care of everything. The furnishings, the rugs, the fabrics, the wall coverings, everything. So, really, Barbara, you should go out on your own." I said, "Okay, that's an idea." So I did. I did start my own business, which I had for 27 years, and was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful business. Hard work, really hard work, because scheduling and deliveries and much running back and forth. All work that you put your heart into is hard work, and it was hard work, but it was very rewarding. I had lovely, lovely clients. All my clients, interestingly enough, were sort of interested in the English style of decorating. Linens and wonderful oak furniture, marvelous textures, and just lovely, lovely things. I didn't have anyone interested in French design, but so this English style of decorating, was sort of became what I did, and it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. I really enjoyed it.
Great. When did you decide, or how did you decide to retire, to stop your work?
One day. Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, during this period of time, I divorced my husband. That was about 1977. And in 1978, I moved to Carmel Valley with Bob Cohn, and we built a very charming, small wood house on 15 acres with a swimming pool. It was lovely. But it was difficult, because I had to go 1 week in San Francisco and 1 week at home, back and forth. And that was getting to be really, really difficult for me. And one day, I arrived in San Francisco by car, got to the design center, opened my car door to go out and start the shopping and looking for things. All my clients were in Palo Alto, Atherton, Woodside, and some in San Francisco. So I would come up, see the clients, see what their needs were, then drive to San Francisco and shop for them. And then, I'll go into all that later. Anyway, I opened the door, and I literally could not get out of the car. Now, there was nothing wrong with me. My legs and my arms and my mind, everything worked. I could not get out of the car. This is an oddest thing. I literally had to lift this leg out, and then lift the other leg out, and then pull myself up and say, I've got to do this. So at the end of that day, I said, that's a psychosomatic signal here that I cannot do this anymore, that it's really taking a toll on me. It's just too much. So I sent a letter to all my clients explaining that I was going to retire. Very, very sorry, because everybody had been so kind and wonderful and supportive to me, but I couldn't do it anymore. It's the oddest feeling not to be able to move. Very, very scary. So I ended that 1 week up and 1 week back. So I then stayed in Carmel Valley, but realized that that was not for me. It was too far removed from Carmel.